God, creator, redeemer, and giver of life. Amen. Please be seated. It's so much fun to be here with you today, and I thank Val for listening to me. And we were chatting on Friday, and I said one of the great joys now that I am retired fully is that I can say to my friends, if you want a Sunday off, I can fill in for you. And so that was a blessing that when we were chatting on Friday, and then of course I was busy all day Saturday. I'm like, oh, that's great, Lynne. Now you have to put a sermon together. That was really smart. But anyway, it's not like it's a hard thing for me to do. And I was also going to call my dad yesterday and say, you go to church tomorrow because I'll be there. I'll know. So some of the faces that I see that don't know me, anyway, I used to live here from the year 2000 to the end of 2013, and it was wonderful to be here, to love the people, and to be loved by them. And that's what we're talking about today. You see a heart on the front of your bulletin, and we began with love is never far away. And you know, because I love my friend Val, I was just delighted to get up at 6 o'clock this morning. And that's not something I do very often anymore. That's one of the biggest, nicest things of retirement, is just to sleep till you wake up, right? Anybody who's retired, which isn't normally that late, but anyway, it's not 6 o'clock in the morning usually. Anyway, so we know a little bit about how we treat people that we love. I mean, there's that saying, we always hurt the ones we love too, right? That's the other side of it. But coincidentally, or God incidentally, this week on my feed, if you like, through Facebook or different articles that came my way, were a few things about church decline, and it made me remember that the church I go to now is in Beamsville, St. Albans in Beamsville, and it's on the main street there. But it's a little wee church, and there's about, I'm looking for my stove, about 45 people, maybe the same people, every Sunday. And I realize now that when Rick and I went there a couple of Thanksgivings ago, it was probably big news. There's some new people out there. No children. No children. So Javier did 3 or 4 baptisms last year, and then one of those couples comes every week with a baby in arms, and you think, now what? That baby's 1 now, great. You know, so you have to have a Sunday school and all of that going on. And there just aren't children there, which is kind of weird for me. Anyway, I mean, it's a great place. But the reality is, you have to go, well, if we aren't growing, then are we dying, right? And one of the things, the rector there is a fabulous man, Javier, and he does a lot with the migrant workers ministry. He's originally from Colombia. And so that's been a new sort of breath of fresh air for the congregation there. And I know that you're doing a lot to raise money to support a refugee family and to sponsor them and so on, and you're doing great with that. So anyway, Javier said to me in our last stewardship meeting before the summer, do you and Rick, can you share this book and read it over the summer? And it's called Autopsy of a Deceased Church. Now the good thing is that the red print, you know, like Jesus speaks and it's all in red in the Bible, it used to be anyway, 12 ways to keep yours alive. So this person, it's actually United Church, and they went and had to close a lot of churches, but the writing was on the wall for quite some time before, and people just don't want to read it or won't listen. You know, the things that could be changed aren't changed, and, you know, what is that? Give me wine to drink so I can accept the things I cannot change. So, and then after the fact, then you can look back and see, right? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. So one of the other articles I saw this week was a letter to the church. Dear church, here's why people are really leaving you. And so there was lots of things like, you know, you speak a foreign language, your traditions, you know, the music, whatever. No, they had to be to St. John's Night Cross. And number 5 was, your love doesn't look like love. Your love doesn't look like love. So the come as you are doesn't really mean it, right? Oh, we're welcoming, we're friendly here. What if we cuss? What if we drink? What if we have tattoos? What if we have a nose ring? What if we're homeless? What if I doubt and I'm not really sure about God? Is it okay to still come? What if I'm divorced? What if I'm gay? What if I don't just look like doesn't look like love. So that kind of stuck with me, that when we look now today to the gospel, I've always I can't even remember, I don't remember my own sermons, even if I just preached them last week, so I don't know what chance you've got. But I think to myself, if I've ever preached on, well, I would have, this comes around in a 3-year cycle, so when I've preached on this before, I more than likely would have picked the parables, right? So the lost sheep, and the fact that, you know, if you love someone or something precious of yours is lost, you're going to search high and low, and if you don't find it, you'll never let that go. You kind of have that remorse that you lost your diamond out of your wedding ring or whatever it is. And so imagine more so a God who loves us unconditionally and loves us this much, and then somebody's lost. So that's the point of the parables. And I've probably always preached on that before, or the lost coin and the significance of that. But what struck me this week were the first 2 verses that say, tax collectors and sinners were coming to listen to Jesus. So that seems funny to me that that's 2 categories. So my favorite movie out of Africa, I can hear Karen Blixen say, they say, women and children to the town for protection. She goes, is that 1 category or 2? So now we have 2 categories for sinners, tax collectors and sinners. So the tax collectors in the day they're everyday people, but they'd gone over the other side. They were working for the government. They were working for the Romans. So it would be like any one of us, and then somebody comes along and you're poor, and they say, Diane, we'd like you to be the tax collector. All you have to do is get $1 a week off all these people. I know they're your friends, but that's their taxes. Collect $1 a week from all of them and bring it to the office of the Romans in town, and we'd like you to deliver it about $50, whatever it is, right? Can you do that every week? And for that, we'll give you $1 for yourself, okay? So that's fine, that was the job she did, but beyond that, if you collect more than that, we don't care. It's up to you. So the tax collectors were taking, say, $2 a week from everybody, and the people knew that, and so they didn't like them, right? So tax collectors, and they were even worse because it was one of our own, right? One of our own is robbing us, and then they're getting rich. So I think that's why the other sinners were just prostitutes, you know, people who were unclean or weren't faithful or whatever. But so tax collectors and sinners, they were coming to listen to Jesus. Now the religious people of their day, so put yourself in that category, we're in church, we're the religious people of the day. Pharisees and the Sadducees are just disgusted. Can you see those tax collectors and sinners are coming to listen to Jesus? And he even eats with them. He goes and sits down and has a meal with them. Like, who is this fellow? I'm just disgusted. Well, that's what Jesus' love looked like, right? Jesus' love knew no bounds. And the right people were coming to listen to him, and he sat down and ate with them. And eventually, the Last Supper, that's what we do, right? We eat together. So it was one of the great things that Jesus did to welcome people, was to sit down and have a meal. It's the same with you, right? You meet somebody, come over and have supper with us. It's how you sit at a table and get to know people. And so really, all the right things were happening, but the religious people of the day thought that was a disgrace. He even eats with tax collectors and sinners. So I want to share this story with you, sort of put it into context that we as the church who want to grow and show God's love to each other and to those who might come to our doors is how we grow. So this story is called The Rabbi's Gift. There was a famous monastery which had fallen on hard times. Formerly, in many buildings, its many buildings were filled with young monks, and its big church resounded with the singing of the chant. But now it was deserted. People no longer came there to be nourished by prayer. A handful of old monks shuffled through the cloisters and praised their God with heavy hearts. On the edge of the monastery woods, an old rabbi had built a little hut. He would come there from time to time to fast and pray. No one ever spoke with him, but whenever he appeared, the word would pass from monk to monk. The rabbi walks in the woods. And and for as long as he was there, the monks would feel sustained by his prayerful presence. One day, the abbot of the monastery decided to visit the rabbi and to open his heart to him. So after the morning Eucharist, he set out through the woods, and as he approached the hut, the abbot saw the rabbi standing in the doorway, his arms outstretched in welcome. It was as though he had been waiting there for some time. The two embraced like long-lost brothers. Then they stepped back and they stood there, smiling at one another with smiles their faces could hardly contain. After a while, the rabbi motioned to the abbot to enter. In the middle of the room was a wooden table with the scriptures open on it. They sat there for a moment in the presence of the book. Then the rabbi began to cry. The abbot could not contain himself. He covered his face with his hands and began to cry too. For the first time in his life, he cried his heart out. The two men sat there like lost children, filling the hut with their sobs and wetting the wood of the table and the scriptures with their tears. After the tears had ceased to flow and all was quiet again, the rabbi lifted his head. "You and your brothers are serving God with heavy hearts," he said. "You have come to ask a teaching of me. I will give you a teaching, but you can only repeat it once. After that, no one must ever say it aloud again." The rabbi looked straight at the abbot and said, "The Messiah is amongst you." For a while, all was silent, and then the rabbi said, "Now you must go." The abbot left without a word and without ever looking back. The next morning, the abbot called all the monks together in the chapter room. He told them he had received a teaching from the rabbi who walks in the woods, and that this teaching had never to be spoken again. Then he looked at each of his brothers and he said, "The rabbi said that one of us is the Messiah." The monks were startled and began saying, "What could this mean? Is Brother John the Messiah? Or Father Thomas, is he the Messiah? Am I the Messiah? What could this mean?" They were all deeply puzzled by the rabbi's teaching, but no one ever mentioned it again. As time went by, the monks began to treat one another with a very special reverence. There was a gentle, wholehearted, human quality about them now, which was hard to describe, but easy to notice. They lived with one another as men who had finally found something. But they prayed the scriptures together as men who were always looking for something. Occasionally, visitors found themselves deeply moved by the life of these monks. Before long, people were coming from far and wide to be nourished by the prayer life of the monks, and young men were asking once again to become part of this community. In those days, the rabbi no longer walked in the woods. His hut had fallen into ruins, but somehow or other, the old monks who had taken his teaching to heart still felt sustained by his prayerful presence. So if we want to be the church whose love looks like Jesus' love, who do we welcome? How do we speak to each other and about each other? So a little thought for the week would be this. What I'm about to say, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind and loving? If we can become those people whose love really looks like Christ's love, we will be being as Christ on earth. Amen.